What happens when a wealthy woman looks down on a waiter, refusing to acknowledge his hard work? Little does she know, this simple act of prejudice will come back to haunt her when the man she humiliated takes over everything she thought she owned. Marcus Evans moved with practiced grace through the bustling floor of La Fontaine, a high-end restaurant nestled in the heart of the city. Known for his professionalism, Marcus was a model employee, always ensuring each guest left satisfied. Behind his calm demeanor, however, was a man with bigger dreams. Marcus aspired to one day own his own restaurant, a place where respect and community were as important as the menu. Tonight, Marcus found himself assigned to Veronica Langston's table. Veronica, a wealthy socialite in her late 40s, was a regular patron of La Fontaine. Her reputation preceded her, entitled, condescending, and frequently dismissive toward the staff. Veronica viewed the world through the lens of her privilege, treating those who served her as invisible or beneath her notice. Veronica arrived with a group of equally haughty friends, dressed in designer gowns and dripping with disdain. As they settled into their seats, Marcus approached with a welcoming smile, presenting the evening's specials. His professionalism didn't waver, even as Veronica cut him off mid-sentence with a curt wave, ordering the most expensive items on the menu without so much as a glance at him. Throughout the evening, Marcus endured their rude remarks and dismissive behavior with his characteristic composure. Veronica and her friends treated him as though he were an afterthought, laughing and gossiping without acknowledging his efforts. Marcus ensured their every need was met, from refilling glasses to accommodating their finicky requests, never letting their behavior disrupt his work. As the evening came to a close, Marcus presented the bill. Veronica examined it briefly before sliding it back, her lips curling into a smirk. "No need to leave a tip," she said to her friends loud enough for Marcus to hear. "He's just doing his job. It's not like it takes much skill." Her words stung, but Marcus remained silent, nodding politely as he cleared the table. Veronica and her entourage departed, their laughter echoing in the air as Marcus stood by, reflecting on the encounter. It wasn't the first time he'd faced such treatment, but tonight something felt different. As he returned to the kitchen, he resolved that one day he'd create a space where people like Veronica could no longer dictate his worth. After Veronica Langston and her entourage left the restaurant, Marcus Evans stood by the table, gathering the remnants of their lavish meal. The sting of Veronica's cutting remark lingered, but he maintained his composure, as he always did. Years of dealing with difficult customers had taught him to let the words roll off his back, but deep down, moments like these reminded him of the challenges he faced in an industry where people like him were often undervalued. Later that evening, as the restaurant quieted down and the last few patrons trickled out, Marcus found a moment to speak with his mentor, Henry, the seasoned restaurant manager. Henry had been in the business for decades and had taken Marcus under his wing, often offering advice and encouragement. "Rough night?" Henry asked, noticing the tension in Marcus's posture as he polished glasses at the bar. Marcus sighed and leaned against the counter. "Same old story. Veronica Langston, of course. She made it a point to remind me of my place in life again tonight." Henry shook his head, a knowing frown crossing his face. "That woman has been coming here for years, and she's never treated anyone with respect. Don't let her get to you, Marcus. You're better than that." "I know," Marcus replied, his voice steady but weary. "It's just frustrating. No matter how hard I work, people like her only see the uniform, not the person behind it." As Marcus finished his shift and prepared to leave, Veronica's words still echoed in his mind. Meanwhile, across town, Veronica and her friends gathered in her opulent living room, recounting their evening. She laughed as she boasted about putting that waiter in his place, oblivious to the deeper impact of her dismissive attitude. To her, it was just another story to amuse her equally condescending peers. The next day, during a team meeting, the restaurant's owner, Mr. Bellamy, addressed the staff with unexpected news. "I've made a difficult decision," he began. "La Fontaine has been my passion for years, but due to financial struggles, I've decided to sell the business." The announcement sent a wave of murmurs through the room. Marcus's heart sank momentarily, but then another emotion emerged: hope. The idea of owning a restaurant had always been his dream, and now the opportunity seemed closer than ever. Could this be his chance to create the kind of establishment he had envisioned for so long? After the meeting, Marcus approached Henry. "Do you think there's any way I could make this happen?" he asked, his voice filled with determination. Henry smiled encouragingly. "It won't be easy, but if anyone can pull it off, it's you, Marcus. You've got the talent, the vision, and the work ethic. Now you just need to figure out how to get the funding." Determined to pursue his dream, Marcus began exploring his options. He reached out to friends and family for support, sharing his vision for the restaurant. He also researched local business development programs that offered grants and low-interest loans to aspiring entrepreneurs. As he juggled his daily shifts at La Fontaine with meetings and paperwork, Marcus's resolve only grew stronger. Each step brought him closer to his goal, and the thought of creating a space where respect and inclusivity were at the forefront kept him motivated. What Veronica had intended as a moment of humiliation had become the catalyst for Marcus's determination to redefine his future. For Marcus Evans, life became a whirlwind of activity as he embarked on his mission to purchase La Fontaine. Each morning, he rose early to meet with advisors, bankers, and mentors, and each evening, he returned to the restaurant for his shift. The balancing act was grueling, but Marcus remained resolute, knowing that every step brought him closer to his dream. His first challenge was securing the funds. With a detailed proposal in hand, Marcus approached several local banks and business development programs. While some meetings ended in polite rejections, others were more promising. He pitched his vision with clarity and passion. A restaurant that preserved the elegance of La Fontaine, but embraced a culture of inclusivity, respect, and community. Eventually, Marcus's persistence paid off. A local entrepreneur who had risen from humble beginnings himself saw potential in Marcus and agreed to back him with a low-interest loan. The deal was finalized after weeks of negotiations, and Marcus officially became the new owner of La Fontaine. When the announcement was made to the staff, it was met with a mixture of surprise and excitement. Many had worked alongside Marcus for years and admired his dedication. Now, knowing they would work under a leader who understood their struggles, they felt hopeful for the future. At a staff meeting, Marcus shared his vision for the restaurant. "This place has always been about fine dining," he began, standing at the head of the room. "But moving forward, it will also be a place where everyone, staff and customers alike, feels respected and valued. Together, we'll create something even greater than what we've known." The room erupted in applause, and one of the servers chimed in, "If anyone can make this happen, it's you, Marcus." With the team on his side, Marcus dove into the work of reimagining La Fontaine. He introduced training sessions to improve service and teamwork, updated the menu to include more diverse flavors, and began making subtle renovations to modernize the space. While his improvements were significant, Marcus ensured that the restaurant retained its signature charm and reputation for excellence. Unbeknownst to the staff, Marcus also carried a personal goal: to create an environment where no one would have to endure the kind of treatment he'd experienced from customers like Veronica Langston. He wanted La Fontaine to stand as a beacon of professionalism and respect, breaking down the barriers that divided people. Several weeks later, Veronica returned to the restaurant, oblivious to the changes that had taken place. Dressed in her usual designer attire, she swept through the doors with an air of entitlement, accompanied by a new group of friends. The staff exchanged glances, recognizing her immediately, but said nothing. Marcus, now overseeing operations from the manager's office, watched through the glass as Veronica seated herself in the same corner booth she favored. He felt a mix of emotions, anger at her continued arrogance, but also a sense of resolve. This was his chance to lead by example, to show her and others like her that respect was non-negotiable. Veronica's behavior was as condescending as ever. She snapped her fingers at the waitstaff, sent dishes back to the kitchen for trivial reasons, and complained loudly about the service. The staff, now well-trained under Marcus's guidance, handled her demands with professionalism, though it was clear they were frustrated. As the evening progressed, Veronica began to notice subtle changes in the restaurant. The menu featured new dishes she didn't recognize. The decor looked more refined, and the staff seemed more confident. "Something's different about this place," she remarked to her friends, her tone skeptical. Eventually, Veronica asked to speak with the manager about a minor inconvenience. Marcus, having anticipated this, stepped out of the office and approached her table with a calm demeanor. "Good evening, Ms. Langston," Marcus said, his voice steady and polite. Veronica looked up, her expression briefly flickering with recognition before she dismissed it. "Are you the manager? I have a complaint about the service tonight." Marcus nodded, listening patiently as Veronica listed her grievances. When she finished, he replied, "I'm sorry to hear that your experience hasn't met your expectations. At La Fontaine, we strive to provide exceptional service to every guest." Veronica tilted her head, scrutinizing Marcus more closely. "Wait a minute. Don't I know you? Weren't you one of the waiters here?" Marcus smiled, unbothered by her tone. "I was, and I'm also the new owner." Veronica's jaw dropped. For a moment, she was at a loss for words, the weight of his revelation hitting her like a freight train. The waiter she had humiliated and dismissed weeks ago now owned the very restaurant she frequented. The room grew quiet as other patrons noticed the exchange. Their curiosity piqued. Veronica, clearly embarrassed, attempted to recover. "Well, congratulations, I suppose," she said stiffly, avoiding Marcus's gaze. Marcus maintained his composure. "Thank you, Ms. Langston. I believe respect and kindness are the foundations of good business. I hope you'll continue to dine with us and experience the improvements we've made." With that, Marcus excused himself, leaving Veronica to process the reality of the situation. As he walked back to the office, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride, not in humiliating Veronica, but in proving that success was the best response to prejudice. The restaurant was alive with its usual energy on a Friday evening, the sounds of clinking glasses, quiet chatter, and soft music filling the air. Marcus Evans observed from his office, now a familiar vantage point, ensuring the restaurant operations ran smoothly. La Fontaine had seen a noticeable uptick in patronage since Marcus took over, the changes in atmosphere and service attracting new customers while retaining loyal ones. Among the evening's reservations was a familiar name, Veronica Langston. Marcus noted her arrival with a mix of anticipation and resolve. She was accompanied by a group of similarly affluent friends, dressed in high fashion and carrying themselves with an air of entitlement. They swept into the dining area, her presence impossible to miss. Veronica's demeanor hadn't changed. She barked orders at the host, demanded a prime table without a reservation, and expected immediate service. The staff, well-trained and professional, accommodated her demands without missing a beat. Marcus had briefed them on how to handle difficult customers, and they executed his instructions flawlessly. As the evening progressed, Veronica's behavior escalated. She found fault with the wine selection, complained about the temperature of her food, and even accused a server of not paying attention when her water glass wasn't refilled instantly. Her loud complaints began to draw the attention of other diners, who exchanged uneasy glances. At one point, Veronica snapped her fingers at a young waiter who accidentally spilled a few drops of water on the table. "Do you even know what you're doing?" she demanded loudly. "This is supposed to be a high-end restaurant, not some cheap diner." The waiter stammered an apology, visibly flustered. Marcus, watching from the sidelines, decided it was time to intervene. He left his office and approached Veronica's table, his expression calm but firm. "Good evening, Ms. Langston," Marcus said, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. "Is there a problem here?" Veronica turned to him, her irritation evident. "Yes, there is. The service here is appalling. I don't know what's happened to this place, but it's certainly gone downhill." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "I see. And may I ask, what specifically about the service has disappointed you?" Veronica scoffed, as if the answer was obvious. "Everything. The staff is incompetent. The food is mediocre. And frankly, I'm appalled at how this place is being run." Marcus took a deep breath, his composure unwavering. "Ms. Langston, I understand you have high expectations. However, I believe the staff here has been more than accommodating, despite the challenges they've faced." Veronica's eyes narrowed. "And who are you to decide that? I've been a regular here for years. I know how this place should be run." Marcus straightened, his tone calm but firm. "I'm the owner of this establishment, Ms. Langston, and while I appreciate your patronage, I cannot condone the way you've treated my staff tonight." or on previous occasions. The revelation sent a ripple through the dining room. Veronica's face flushed as the realization sank in. The waiter she had dismissed and demeaned weeks ago was now the owner of La Fontaine. Her friends exchanged awkward glances, clearly unsure how to respond. "You're the owner?" Veronica stammered, her usual confidence faltering. "I am," Marcus confirmed, "and I believe it's important to create an environment where everyone is treated with respect, staff and customers alike. Unfortunately, your behavior tonight has not aligned with that principle." The room fell silent as Marcus's words hung in the air. Veronica, visibly embarrassed, looked around, her usual bravado replaced by discomfort. "Well," she began, grasping for a response, "I didn't mean to offend anyone. I was simply pointing out areas that could be improved." Marcus nodded, his tone softening slightly. "Feedback is always welcome, Ms. Langston, but how it's delivered matters. My team works hard to provide an exceptional experience for every guest. They deserve the same respect that you'd expect in return." The other diners, who had been quietly observing the exchange, began to clap. The applause grew louder, echoing throughout the restaurant. Veronica's face burned with humiliation as she realized the extent of the support for Marcus and his staff. "I think it's best if we end this evening here," Marcus said, his tone final but polite. "I hope you'll take some time to reflect on how your actions affect others." Veronica, unable to meet his gaze, muttered a quick goodbye and left the table, her friends trailing behind her. The room remained silent for a moment before the diners returned to their meals, the tension replaced by admiration for Marcus's handling of the situation. As Marcus returned to his office, he felt a mix of emotions. Confronting Veronica had been necessary, not just for the staff, but for the culture he wanted to foster at La Fontaine. Respect and dignity were non-negotiable, and tonight he had made that clear. The news of Marcus Evans's inspiring journey from waiter to owner of La Fontaine spread like wildfire. Local newspapers, online blogs, and even a few regional TV stations picked up the story. Headlines like, "From server to owner, Marcus Evans redefines fine dining," celebrated his determination and success. For the community, Marcus's rise became a symbol of perseverance and triumph against adversity. People from all walks of life flocked to the restaurant, eager to experience the space that had been transformed under Marcus's leadership. Longtime patrons praised the improvements in service, while new customers appreciated the welcoming atmosphere that seemed to radiate from every corner. La Fontaine was no longer just a high-end dining spot. It had become a place where people felt seen, respected, and valued. Marcus's story resonated deeply, especially with individuals who had faced similar challenges. Many customers stopped him during their visits to express their admiration. "You've shown us what's possible," one young man said as Marcus greeted tables during a busy evening. "Your story reminds us that hard work and integrity can overcome even the toughest barriers." Meanwhile, Veronica Langston found herself grappling with the weight of her actions. The humiliation she'd faced during her last visit to La Fontaine had stayed with her, forcing her to confront the arrogance and entitlement that had dictated her behavior for years. At first, she tried to brush it off, blaming Marcus for overreacting, but as time passed, the truth became harder to ignore. Conversations with friends and family opened her eyes further. "Maybe it's time you reevaluated how you treat people," one close friend told her bluntly. "You've been given so much in life, but that doesn't mean others deserve less." Veronica began to reflect on the countless interactions she'd had with service staff, moments she had dismissed as inconsequential, but that had left lasting impressions on those she demeaned. She realized that her behavior was not only unfair, but also indicative of a deeper prejudice she needed to address. The experience at La Fontaine became a turning point, sparking a desire for personal growth. Back at the restaurant, Marcus continued to implement changes that embodied his vision of inclusivity and excellence. He introduced an anonymous feedback system for employees, ensuring their voices were heard and valued. Training sessions focused on building empathy and communication skills, creating a stronger sense of camaraderie among the team. Marcus also redefined customer service policies, emphasizing mutual respect between staff and patrons. "Every person who walks through these doors, whether they're here to dine or to serve, deserves to be treated with dignity," he told his team during a staff meeting. The changes not only improved morale, but also elevated the overall dining experience. Word of La Fontaine's transformation spread beyond the local community, attracting attention from prominent food critics and influencers. Positive reviews poured in, praising not just the food, but also the unique ethos that Marcus had cultivated. One critic wrote, "La Fontaine isn't just a restaurant, it's a statement. Marcus Evans has reimagined what fine dining can and should be." Under Marcus's leadership, the restaurant thrived. Revenue soared, reservations became harder to secure, and the staff worked with a renewed sense of pride. Marcus often reminded his team that their success was a collective effort. "This isn't just about me," he said during a celebratory staff dinner. "Every one of you has played a role in making La Fontaine what it is today." The impact of Marcus's journey extended far beyond the restaurant's walls. Local businesses began to adopt similar policies of inclusivity and respect, inspired by his example. Community leaders invited Marcus to speak at events, where he shared his story and the lessons he'd learned along the way. "Success isn't just about achieving your own goals," he often said. "It's about lifting others up with you." As La Fontaine flourished, so did Marcus's vision for its future. He started planning additional initiatives, including partnerships with local schools, to provide job training for underprivileged youth. "I want to give others the opportunities I didn't have when I started," he explained during an interview. "If we can make a difference in one person's life, it's worth it." The restaurant became a symbol of hope and transformation for the community, a place where people of all backgrounds could come together and share in a common experience. For Marcus, the success of La Fontaine wasn't just measured in financial terms, but in the positive impact it had on everyone involved. Even Veronica, now humbled, found herself drawn to this new version of La Fontaine. One day she returned quietly, this time without her usual entourage. She sat at a corner table and observed the changes that had taken place, from the confident staff to the vibrant energy of the diners. It was a stark contrast to the restaurant she once frequented, and it left her deeply moved. Veronica asked to speak with Marcus, who greeted her with the same professionalism he extended to all patrons. This time she didn't have complaints, only gratitude and an apology. "I was wrong, Marcus," she admitted, her voice tinged with sincerity. "The way I treated you and others was unacceptable. Thank you for showing me the power of respect and humility." Marcus accepted her apology with grace, reinforcing his belief in the capacity for people to change. As Veronica left the restaurant, she carried with her a renewed sense of purpose, vowing to approach life with more empathy and kindness. Under Marcus's steady leadership, La Fontaine continued to thrive, standing as a testament to the values he championed: hard work, respect, and the unwavering belief that everyone deserves a place at the table. Months had passed since Veronica Langston's humiliating encounter at La Fontaine. The once dominating socialite had been forced to confront her behavior, and for the first time in years, she began to see herself through a different lens. Veronica realized that her arrogance and entitlement had not only hurt others, but had also distanced her from meaningful connections and growth. One evening, Veronica decided to return to La Fontaine. This time, she walked through the familiar doors with a sense of trepidation, dressed simply and without her usual entourage. The changes to the restaurant were evident. Its energy was vibrant, its clientele more diverse, and its atmosphere warm and inviting. She felt the shift, a reflection of the new leadership and the inclusive culture Marcus had built. Veronica asked the hostess to speak with Marcus. When he approached her table, she stood nervously, her once confident demeanor replaced by humility. "Marcus," she began, her voice soft, "I don't even know where to start. I owe you an apology." Marcus listened attentively as Veronica continued. "I was wrong, so wrong, to treat you the way I did. Your success and the changes you've made here are incredible. You've shown me what true leadership and dignity look like, and for that, I'm grateful." Marcus's expression remained calm, but there was a glimmer of compassion in his eyes. "Thank you for saying that, Veronica," he replied. "It takes courage to acknowledge past mistakes, and I appreciate your honesty." She nodded, visibly relieved by his response. "I've learned a lot since that day about respect, humility, and how much words and actions matter." Marcus extended his hand, a gesture of acceptance. Growth is a journey we're all on. I hope this experience inspires you to continue making positive changes, not just for yourself, but for those around you. The two shared a brief but meaningful handshake, a moment of reconciliation that symbolized the power of understanding and second chances. As Veronica left, she glanced back at the restaurant, feeling a newfound respect for Marcus and the values he represented. LaFontaine continued to thrive under Marcus's leadership, becoming a symbol of excellence and inclusivity. For Marcus, the journey from waiter to owner was more than a personal triumph. It was proof that perseverance and integrity could overcome even the deepest prejudices.